What do you think the best Taylor Swift era is?
Next question. Happy.
Cheers.
Wednesday? What day is it today? Any stories from the week from like work or anything?
My work is like ramping up right now, so I'm just like taking the calm before the storm right now and just like slowly easing into things. But I think, end of March, April will be very uncomfortably hectic.
Nice. Always love those though. It's always nice when you kind of go through the waves, the ups and downs, and when you're on the down and you can see the up coming soon. That is always kind of like a nice feeling to be like, okay, like I know it's about to get really like heavy.
Yeah.
So let's like properly enjoy the moment right now. Just like maybe not over stress about things.
Yeah.
Take
that's
time for
the key.
yourself and then just know it's going to come and you're good because
like not stress out about it.
The opposite of that is like coming down from like a hecticness.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, it doesn't seem like there's much in the horizon.
Yeah.
And then your mind can kind of race in a different way that in that sense. So.
Yeah. What about you? What's
Nice.
going on?
Not too much. Kind of the same thing. Things are starting to ramp back up, but nothing too hectic yet. I feel like once the nice weather comes, that's like when the niche that I'm in, and that's when things are going to start to really pick up again. But I have a couple of things here and there about to pop up, but I just try to get hired on like a drone shoot for a new company.
Oh, yeah, sick.
And then they're out in Cambridge. They're like, hey, we need like some drone stuff.
It's a haul.
Huge haul for that.
Yeah.
And, with the drone mini that I have, very tiny. 30-kilometer gusts of winds is like no shot. I tried doing a practice one down by the beaches here because I got new filters for it.
Right.
Just to make sure that like, I can expose it properly.
Good. Yeah.
And dude, you throw that thing 100 feet in the air on like a 30-kilometer gust and it's just like, whoa. I'm like, crap, I need to like figure out the proper day to drive to Cambridge to do this.
Oh yeah, it would suck to drive all the way out there and it's like a windy ass day.
So they're like, we're flexible, but we need this video done by like April 3rd. So I'm like, yeah, the scope's pretty easy. So I'm like, even if I go like April 2nd, March 31st, I'd be like, okay, we're fine, everything's fine.
So you're keeping your eyes on the weather right now,
and that's what I've been doing. And every single day, dude, we're in that part of the year where it's like. It's very windy every day, like every day. I'm like, even if there's a weekend available, I'll go and do that every day. So I messaged my contact and she's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Our place is flooding anyways. We got to push this.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, oh, that's heavy. Okay. Crap.
That's chill.
So that's going to be pushed until maybe they figure that out, which is, probably for the best, obviously. But also just for like the winds and the weather and just the time of the year. So once it actually gets nicer to make the drone shots look nicer and be safer by not dealing with 30-kilometer winds, we should be fine.
I guess it's the downside of all those, like everything's getting smaller. Like all those drones are just getting smaller and smaller. But the downside is winds and you're just screwed on filming.
Yes, exactly. Especially with those small drones. That's exactly it.
Damn.
We have a notes app thing that we're sharing about certain topics.
I don't have my phone on me though. Yeah,
I have one, and I have one that I remember, so I'm going to just kind of bring this up. And I feel like every time this podcast, I feel like once an episode so far, I've always just like low-key thrown shade at like projects I've been on.
Dude,
but I remember texting you this, being like, and on our notes app, it says, I filmed the wrong car from 9 to 1.
Yeah.
And it's one of those cases where it was not the crew's fault. It wasn't my fault as the director. It wasn't my creative director / producer's fault. It was 100% client's fault.
Oh, okay.
So we go into a dealership. There's supposed to be a car for us to film. I'm trying to keep away from specifics here. Our client's like, that one. Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah.
9 to 1. We're on schedule. Everything's going great. We have our lunch at 1. We come back. We have to do all the inside stuff of the car from the afternoon.
Yeah.
And they realize it's like, oh, this infotainment screen and how it works doesn't align with what this video is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
It's a very just like, it is a conflict. It's like, this is not going to work. There's no way around it. And for the first half of the day, like the shoot involved like actors and like scenes and like very choreographed kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, let's start it all again and just try and streamline everything.
The client just walks up and they're like, guys, this isn't the right car. And you're just like, oh, brother, this guy stinks.
In my head, yes. Outside, and the optics and the best
You're like, no worries,
practices
all good.
to have on set is you can't really have that reaction. You just have to go, like, you have to take that deep breath, bite your tongue, and just like, how are we moving forward?
Yeah,
from here?
yeah.
And especially with like already
Totally.
half the day cut off, it just like every second now counts.
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
like, all right, like let's go. Like, this light's got to go here. Put the camera back on the gimbal. We're going back to the first shot. Da 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 da.
Yeah, that's stressful.
Yeah, it was.
So wait, did it have to? Did it go into like another reshoot day?
No, we left at 9 p.m. that day.
Oh, I do remember you telling me that. Yep.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it's so funny because the last shoot I had before that was also a complete crap shoot. And it was just like not a lot of resources behind me. Like the scope was way too much for a 1-day shoot, but there's a lot of like other back end politics stuff of the businesses and clients, and just we had to get it done in that day, whatever. So that day was also like a 12-hour day. Which, like, in corporate is like, that's kind of hectic. Like, that's like, people who work in these corporate jobs only work to 9 to 5. So asking them to stay late.
Yeah, totally.
But if you're in, like, the film world, you're like, 12-hour days. What do you mean? Like, that's what we do all the time. It's just, like, a different mindset of that.
100%.
And so, obviously, once you get to that 10th, 11th, 12th hour, people aren't peppy and happy and, like, we're having so much fun.
Totally.
So I went from that and then going into this new shoot being like, wow, I have, like, a lighting person, an assistant, and a cam up, and now I can just focus on directing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And this scope is perfect for like a 1-day shoot. If anything, we can easily hammer it out in like a half-day shoot if we really stayed focused and if we really had to. Because we were filming in a dealership, and every time we do that, it's very important to us that we're not trying to disrupt their flow of business.
Totally.
Especially because we have to use a lot of their floor. So we're not trying to scare customers away. So it went from that to like, oh crap, like our first 4 or 5 hours of the day just got shot because we filmed the wrong car.
Yeah, dude. Were they apologetic at all?
Maybe not to me, maybe more to like the producer, because right when I heard that, my job in that moment is just to be like, that's not my issue to talk that through with.
Yeah,
It's like,
you're
I'm
just
the one who
trying
has to drive this forward.
Yeah, like,
they can deal with
figure
that
about
like
getting it
back
done.
end stuff to like discuss how this happened. How do we not let that happen again?
Totally.
That's more of the agency to client aspect of things. It's my job is to like, we have to hammer this out today. So like,
Job gets good. Got to get done.
yeah, start driving forward. So
That's crazy.
there's just something on the notes app where I'm like, and once this was happening, even real time, and I'm like, I have to talk about this on the podcast because I'm sure there's levels of this that has to be relatable. Like times where you're on a shoot or on set and being like, oh, we picked the wrong thing to shoot, or the wrong script, or something popped up where you just killed 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like that stuff does happen.
Or you
but it
send a
just sucks.
V1 and you're like, that wasn't the direction that we wanted, or that's not the right footage. Like,
luckily, that like the terrible V1, I've never had to deal with that.
Really?
I'm always so nervous, like sending the V1, being like, I hope I did this right. Like
Yeah.
we've had communications to get through this process, and like we should, but there's always that like, you never know if clients are going to come back being like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is not what I signed up for.
yeah, let's try a whole entirely different direction.
Luckily,
You're
I've
like,
never really had to deal with something that bad. Like the closest thing would be more of the interview style stuff where you interview like 8 people for like 40 minutes and you have to puzzle the story together yourself.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones being like, I could have done this a million other ways.
Yeah.
This is the way that I thought made the most sense.
Yeah.
But it is 100% subjective.
Totally.
So they're going to view it and remember even the shoot day being like, well, what about this soundbite?
Yeah.
I remember this person talked about this better than this person.
Yeah. And you're like,
Great, so you have to
no,
go back.
you didn't.
Yeah. You're wrong.
You didn't remember that.
Do you have any bad, like really bad V1s in terms of just like not keeping the train on the tracks of what was previously discussed?
Yeah, I think sometimes if it's previously discussed, then it's okay. But I do, maybe not so much anymore, but definitely early on in the career when it was just like, we just want to see something. Those are the ones, maybe that's why I hate it so much now, is because I'll like make something and like, how about try a different direction? I'm like, okay, but I already spent 5 hours doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend another couple hours doing a completely different direction. A lot of it was like making promos to like, say, a show or something that includes testimonials or like interviews. So you're like getting together these narratives, and it's like, yeah, it could be a somber narrative, or it could be like a totally upbeat narrative. It's like it's totally subjective, like you're saying. So I'm really glad that I haven't had one of those in a while. But
And that always seems like it's always the music just to fix that. Being like, so is it the vibe that's off, or is it the content that's off?
yeah, like what they're saying. So the music stuff, I feel like has been happening less and less to me. I don't know.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah, I think people are starting to care less, and everything is just like, there's just so much music out there now. So it's like hard to pick something that's not good.
You know what I think the balance is of it too? It's we've also gone through our careers and deal
Totally.
with enough of that
Totally.
where now we know not to, like, we kind of have like a feeling of what we know would work best for that project.
Totally.
And we're not just like very much experimenting.
Yeah.
So just like having that experience of going through times where we're just like, nah, that one didn't hit, and you
Yeah.
got to play it a bit more safe, if that's the right word.
Yeah. Now that's your default.
Yeah, exactly. Now you kind of learn being like, okay, like you can try and push it a bit one way or the other, but you know you should still live within the space of like a song.
Like, not going to put an EDM track in this time.
And I think it's also important to, that's one of the things I love to talk about during pre-production. Because I hate that. It's fine. I just made a YouTube video about this. That'll be being posted soon of like every editor hates like the V1 response being like, why is there a premiumbeat.com watermark still in this? I'm like, this is not what the V1's supposed to be about. Just like, let's talk about story. Let's talk about content. Are we on the right page? Perfect. Watch it again. Now let's talk about creative elements. What do we think about the transitions? Graphics, any type of effects that I put on it.
Totally.
Does that align with the branding and anything else that we should have talked about in the pre-production of the vibe that we're trying to go for this?
Yeah.
It's like the process of how you want to talk to your clients about how to like approach the revision stages so that you don't have to get the very first comment of a V1 being like, why does it say premiumbeat.com?
Yeah.
No, that's not important right now.
Yeah. My worst is placeholders. When you just like type out placeholders on the screen, they're like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "It
literally says
it." Literally says it on the screen.
That's why I'm doing. I tried to answer your question proactively. I've done those too. I've definitely done those a lot.
It's like it just doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, that's someone's getting paid to ask those questions. It's not us.
Not us. It is not us.
So what'd you think of Dune 2?
Haven't seen it. Only been seeing the social media randomness
crazy.
of what's going on with that.
You gotta go get a bucket or something.
Yeah, like what? That's like. I wonder if that's like a planted marketing thing. I wonder
Definitely.
if they like knew being like,
Definitely.
we want this to get silly and go viral.
I don't think anybody's talking about that side of it. They're like, "Oh, this is so crazy." And I'm like, you don't think somebody really thought that through?
Somebody on the marketing team being like, let's just troll everybody.
Totally.
With this.
100%, dude. You got to see it.
I don't think I've even seen Dune 1. Like, I'm not. My thing, I assume it's kind of more in the action genre.
Yeah.
I don't, in general, I just like don't like action.
It's like
films.
a sci-fi action thing. It's a remake, and it was also a book. It's like
okay, cool. Didn't know that actually.
It's like Blade Runner vibes.
Yeah.
But
That's what I
also
figured.
like Star Wars vibes. But no like. There's no like real big CG or no AI or no like aliens and stuff like that. Like it's just the futuristic part of it is like they're fucking in the desert.
True. Yeah, I've yet to see that.
Yeah, dude, you gotta watch it. How is this gonna be a movie podcast?
Is this going to be a movie podcast?
This is gonna be skateboarding, movies,
AI.
AI. And how they will rule the world simultaneously.
Do you ever get jealous of other filmmakers still?
Still.
Like, do you ever go on social media and see somebody on a set and you're just like, whoa, I want to be on that set? Like, how are you doing that and not me?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. I would say less. I try to really curate like what I'm looking at in terms of social media. But I also am like, at this point, from feeling that, like really in tune with where I want to be and what I want to do. Because I have like a lot of friends around me who want completely different things.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want to be directing movies or directing like ad spots. And I'm just like, oh, I actually don't want to do any of that. But I like have to be jealous about it for a second to realize that like, oh, I don't actually want to be working on those like massive like 50 people crew.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe every once in a while, but Nah, it's not for me for my full time.
Nice.
But I'm stoked for them that they're doing it. You know what I mean?
I think that's really healthy. I think it's healthy to have that moment of like maybe that little bit of jealousy, but then just kind of talk yourself through it of like, hold on, I don't really want it to, I wouldn't want myself to be in that person's position anyways, because that doesn't kind of excite me.
Yeah. And if you wanted that, you probably would be doing that.
I think what
That's the
I
crazy
found
part.
is that happens to me when I have some downtime. When like I don't have a couple things coming up, and then you're just like, it just makes sense, right? Because you're just like, oh, I want to be on that set. Because I want to be working again.
Yeah.
I want to be back on the set. But then the flip of that is when I'm busy and I see my friends like on cool sets, I genuinely like get really happy. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Right.
But then it's just the opposite when I'm not busy, being like, oh, crap. Right?
Yeah.
That's always the interesting part of
Yeah.
that. And I think it is just because of, hey, you're not busy because of just the waves that happen sometimes in freelancing, and you want to be, and you see somebody who's on a cool set, and you're just like, well, I'm at home.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to stay busy with like other things, whether it's like the back end stuff in the business or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you're like, I'd rather be in that person's shoes. I think that's also healthy too, just to see it that way, but to be self-aware of seeing it like that, and there's just kind of getting past it.
Totally. It also like, I guess, like what I was trying to get at is like it highlights what you do want to be doing. Like if you really feel strongly to be like, oh, that commercial set looks really cool. How do I get to that level of like where there's like that big of a crew and we have budget for all that gear? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Because then your brain will start to work on that, which is just focus. Like that's kind of how I look at it. Like these types of things just highlight like the jealousy highlights what you're interested in, and then you know where to put your focus to be like, oh shit, okay. Less so when you like have a fuck ton of interest, you know?
Yeah.
Like, which is like, I think mostly what my social media is now. It's like snowboarding videos, skateboarding videos, a couple set videos, but then it's just like, you can't really get tied into a single thing. But I definitely still feel like that, you know, if I see somebody like out there like filming snowboarding, I'm like, fuck, that's sick. I wish I was doing that.
That is pretty cool.
But you know how long that they've focused their career to be like, they're just snowboard filmmakers. And I'm just like, true. I guess I don't really actually snowboard. So like, how could I
had a little moment like that with you though, because you said that you were helping out with like an MLSE thing, like a Raptors thing.
Yeah.
And that's something where it's just like, oh, well, like I got jealous of that. And I think that does stem from like, I've always been like big into sports growing up, and just that in general, and being able to film in Scotiabank Arena, whatever sport it is, I'd be super stoked on. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I think about how I got into like the car industry and like all the car work that I stuff, but I'm not some huge car buff. Yeah. Like that's such like a pretty popular niche. Yeah. Where like I know so many people who like kind of like cameras and stuff, but are like diehards and like cars and like know every part and like V8 engines and like all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, I just kind of got sucked into this world somehow. Totally. Versus being like, I love cars, I want to film cars.
Yeah. Which is, it comes down to like who you know, as shitty as it is.
Well, 100%.
Which is like, because that's how I got, like somebody was like, yo, are you free to shoot this? Yes. Shoot this thing. And I was like, sure. They don't care if I'm a sports guy or not, you know? Like, they just need me to do the thing. Press the button, aim the big box with the lens on it. Like,
oh, it's that easy? Oh shit, I didn't know what we did was that easy.
But yeah, dude, I feel you really hard, because it's like there's tons of things that I do look at that I'm like, I am very equipped to be able to do that. Yeah, you know, especially something as simple as that, because you have like the prior knowledge versus the person on the actual ground, like learning how things work. And it's like, that math doesn't math.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That's exactly
But it's just like, that's who they had contact with, you know?
I want to pivot this conversation still kind of in filmmaking. And it's like, do you ever get jaded with the work that you do? And I want to start this off by tying it back to the conversation we just had of like, I filmed the wrong car from 9 to 1. And it was just like a crap day. And even the shoot that I was in the prior week, which was like hectic. And I remember just driving home and just like, why did this happen? Like, da-da-da, da-da-da. And they have to bring yourself back and being like,
Oh,
take yourself out
brother.
of it and be like, if like 20-year-old Ryan saw what I was doing right now,
True.
like, why are you tripping so hard? Like, yeah, like things happen on sets. Like,
Yeah.
and anybody can say any story about a set that they've been on where shit's hit the fan. Like, it happens. But take yourself out on it and realize what kind of brands you're like doing work for and
Totally.
how high up you're at right now, and just
Totally.
like kind of appreciate that. But it's so easy to like hindsight to like catch yourself doing it, but it's always in the moment for me. I'm driving home and like a crap shoot. I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, the day was so shit.
Yeah.
And it's the conversation of like, if you want your profession to be your passion, it's not always gonna be sunshine and rainbows. Like any job that you'll ever
preach.
really do, whether you love it or not, there's always gonna be the crap in it.
Yeah.
So just how much can you appreciate it and try and get over like that jadedness? And it's something that's always scared me of like, I don't want to be like 45 and just be so over being behind a camera.
Yeah.
Because I've loved it so much, but am I doing it to myself by like purposely continuing my career in something that started off as a hobby and had a
Dude.
huge passion on?
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose that love just by being in it day in, day out, because this is what we do.
I feel like that's a hard thing
That's a pretty heavy question. It was more of a rant for me, so I'm sorry for stealing that.
but it's also like, how are you supposed to, like, that's the perfect storm to lose the love, is to do it. Like, it is this like really fine balance of ebb and flow for it, which is the crazy part, And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier of like, there's slow seasons and there's fast seasons. And those are the times that like, sometimes you hate what you do and sometimes you love what you do. And it's like, you just still do it.
And I think you have to ask yourself, like, could you see yourself doing anything else right now instead? And my answer is no.
Yeah,
like,
true.
I don't know what else I would do as a way to make money, as a career, as a profession. I couldn't be a lawyer. I couldn't do anything with that side of my brain.
Yeah, yeah. I often think about this all the time. Like this past year has been like such a trip for me, and I feel the exact same way of like looking and being like, wow, the fact that I'm not working at a full-time job right now is crazy. But all the time I'm like, I honestly think I could work, like if I had the opportunity to like work at a bar or something, I think I just would.
Yeah.
Like if I could make the same money doing other things, I genuinely think that I would.
Interesting. And what do you think that you think about that? Is that when you are busy and stressed, or not, or just randomly? Like, it doesn't have to be connected to where you're at in your work-life balance type of thing.
I think part of it is loneliness. Like part of it's just like, sure, you go on set and it's just like people and you're like talking a bunch, and then like a lot of it's just like sitting at home and I'm like, fuck, I'm bored, talking to people, sending emails, and it's just like a lot of what I actually like to do isn't the things that I'm being paid to do, and I don't want to be paid for it. And that's the thing that's like the difference for me from a lot of other people. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be paid to direct the things that I really feel passionate about. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I like, if a brand wants to like sponsor something, sure, like that's a completely different story. But like, I don't want to be hired to like do a spot for New Balance. That sounds pretty sick.
Yeah,
but like,
I think I know where you're going with that, though.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the sense that you feel like you might lose creative control of it too, when it's like they're coming to you being like, "Well, we're hiring you to help us with, in a sense, a problem that we're trying to solve." Mm-hmm. So it's like you kind of have to deliver on that versus always starting it from the most authentic point of view. And a sponsorship is like kind of like the way around that, being like figuring out a deal where it's like you have a platform with followers or whatever, and doing a partnership of like, okay, I'll do it, but and this needs to be in my voice and my creative style type of thing. Yeah. And you just take it as it is.
That's exactly it. That's you actually hit it so hard there. Yeah. It's like you're already doing the thing, and someone's like, "Hey, we'll pay you to continue doing that.
Like, we'll support you."
That's the only thing that I'm like kind of interested in. So that's what I often think about, because right now I look at my job as very like jobby job, very job. I was like, I would love to remove as much creative control out of my day to day from like my 9 to 5 to be like, tell me what exactly you want this edit to look like and I'll give it to you.
Yeah. And I guess it's important to note that like we kind of do the same thing, but a lot more of what you do does deal with the post-production stuff. And a lot more what I deal with is production stuff.
Yeah.
You still do a lot of production stuff. I still do some post-production stuff, but I feel like your majority is more that, which probably goes in line with like the loneliness.
Yeah,
in the sense of like that's just an editor's lifestyle. It's like you are stuck by your screen. I would assume most of the time alone. Maybe if you work on a team or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
But like you're alone and you're locked in versus being on set where you can have that kind of outlet of like socializing. And you know, collaborating in a physical sense.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I think I'm jaded.
Me too, but I'm trying to get out of it. I really just don't want to be 45 and be like, have like just break and snap and be like, I'm over this.
Yeah. I think like what's helping me right now is I'm just like accepting and embracing that fact to be like, okay, I can understand that and like how am I going to work with that? How am I going to work with that info? Like how am I going to still, if I'm jaded with the things that I'm doing day to day, like what else am I doing?
And how can you pivot to maybe kind of get out of whatever that rut would be? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's just like, maybe you are in like a wrong industry right now and dealing with like the wrong people.
Yeah.
After maybe even years and years of being with them, everybody has their time of when they're supposed to be working together and not, or like a relationship together in whatever sense.
Dude, facts.
And not. So I think that still kind of falls in line with like business relationships.
Facts.
Yeah. Wow, what a podcast. I feel like this started kind of like soft and being like, where are we going with this? But I think we kind of got somewhere with this.
Yeah, and that's our review for Dune 2.
Go watch it and buy that popcorn bucket. Tell us what you think about it. The reviews on that specifically, because that is what all the hype is about.
That's crazy. Do you have a letterbox? You know what letterbox is? It's like a movie review. Not movie review. It's like a site that you just like, I guess it is kind of like a movie review site. You like, do you know what Goodreads is? No, it's basically like a website that you just like click the movies that you've seen.
Okay.
And you like rate them and whatever.
Okay.
It's like
that makes sense.
a self IMDb, I guess, of just like movies. And
does it also have like the vibe of Reddit where there can be like comments and?
Yeah, kind of. It's like a social media, but just for whatever. I don't know. That's irrelevant. Anyways.
Text your mom that you got home safe. Text us that you got home safe.
Yeah, 905.
911. Take care. We'll see you in the next episode.